So in this class, we're really interested in the production of knowledge, watered down to why do I think the way I think? This is the introductory class to women's studies. And this fall, I'm also teaching a women in religion as a religious studies class. I teach a feminisms and activism class in women's and gender studies. I teach a missing and murdered Indigenous women's class at the 300 level. And that's from a global perspective. I teach multiculturalism and religious literacy as a religious studies class. I teach sex and sexualities in religion as both women's and gender studies and religious studies. So there's many different classes. And like Maria said, once you find, maybe you find something that you really like you're saying, Julia. And, you know, I know this class is overloaded or is full right now, but people come and go. So yeah, you can try to see if you can get in. And if you do, if there's no space and you really are interested in what I'm talking about today, email me. We're all, you know, brenda.anderson@uregina.ca, all first, last name. Email me and I can overload you, because the reality is that people come and go a little bit. They find, oh, I don't know, what is she talking about? I'm not staying here. And then others go, oh, I really dig it. So, you know, that's the 70s lingo, by the way. So you can kind of get into classes even if they're full often. Okay. So I hope that kind of answers a little bit of your question. This is what a first day of classes would look like for all of you, no matter what you're enrolled in. It's not just about the class content, and you're going to start learning those skills that are applicable to everything. As I said, I like to really build community and locate yourself. So I have a lot on classroom etiquette, class agreements, class practices. It's a new class every time. So that's me. I have a 13-minute video I ask people to watch, which is about personal pronouns. And I use she and her. You can say they as well. But that's a really important piece of our culture on campus. As Maria said, we want you to know we're available. We give you all kinds of tips, hopefully, on how to do good research and writing. We even think that we're having fun sometimes, and we will have forums. These are things that probably that Dr. Folk is going to talk to you about. And I see some people are interested in poli-sci and bio, Japanese, nice music. Okay. I'm going to go down, and I wanted to just show you the Moodle a little bit rather than having everything open. So the syllabus is the most important thing, because it's actually the contract that you have between the professor and yourself. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is going to give you, like I said, when your assignments are due, things like that. And then it's going to give you the daily readings and what to expect in that day. So we section our class into different things. It'll tell you the readings, and generally readings are always to be done prior to the class, because it's something that the professor is going to be referencing, and they'll expect you to have some of that knowledge. I spend a lot of time in my intro class teaching students how to take good notes from their readings as well as the lectures. And note-taking is something that you can seek help with. At Luther College, Scott Wilson is our writing across the disciplines person who could help you with that. Your professors, your classmates. My UPrep was coming in from Dilk, where I was from, to the university and just going around to different classes and sitting in. And I sat in on this history class, and I asked the student, how do you know what to write? Because my teachers always told me what to write, and professors will not necessarily do that. The syllabus is what tells you at all times when things are due, what your expectations are, what the readings are, not UR courses. The contract with us is here. So how, after an hour of them, blah, 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 like, what is it you want me to focus on? Should I write every word down? How do I do this? And then I didn't even know for a couple of years, seriously, that I should, like, it dawned on me, I should be taking notes from my readings, or else what the freaking point is it of reading? Because I'm not going to remember that 500-page tome. What is going on? So you got to take notes or else it's pointless. And so learning that skill, part of your first year, we know you don't necessarily come in with those skills. That's what we're here for always, right? So we don't expect somebody is born knowing this stuff. It's all taught, just like walking and talking. I start the class off with this, what I think is just like a hilarious topic or title. And probably you'll just go, what are you talking about? But I hope you can see Tarzan and Jane here. And as I said, most profs think in sections, like, okay, we need to do this before we do this. And so this is not something you're going to learn in one day. This is going to be about a 2-week section of the semester. And usually profs make their PowerPoints available, but you can't ever get all the information from PowerPoints. This is just the bare bones. So I like to impress students, like, okay, if your parents happen to be paying for some of your university and they wonder why are you taking this weird class, you can throw out like, look at what I'm learning. I know what epistemology is. I know what biological essentialism is. I know what a trope is. You get your bang for your buck this way. You know what I'm saying? And so some of these things you guys are going to be really familiar with. And then others of you will go, I've never heard any of this, and you're scaring the bejeebers out of me. How am I going to know all this? You will. This is the best time of life where your job as young adults is to learn. Your job, your employment is just being here, and soon we'll be here in person as well. So me, Tarzan, you, Jane, the power to name. And I'm going to just now pretend that we're kind of like in Women's and Gender Studies 100. Okay. These are what is shaping my class in 100. And I call these foundational questions for the semester. And people get tired, I'm sure, of me saying, why do I think the way I think? And how do I know what I think I know? And I have a little exercise for you to start on today to start locating yourself to these questions. So you notice that first one, why do I think the way I think, is about process. That's actually what epistemology is. And if you were in class, you'd be taking notes of this. I would suggest the definition of epistemology is the study of knowledge. So anything that has that ology behind it means study of. Biology, psychology, you can think of others. There's such a thing as an episteme. That's this first thing, and it means knowledge. So in this class, we're really interested in the production of knowledge, watered down to, why do I think the way I think? Who told me I should think this way in binaries? Or seeing knowledge as power, or perhaps money as power? And then it goes to the next question, how do I know what I think I know? Who told me those things were important, or the world operates this way? We talk about that as social construction, deconstruction, and reconstruction. And you'd be very equipped to talk about cultural scripts as a teaser. And I'm not here to sell my class, but because this you will find in many, many classes. But a cultural script, if you think of us as the theater players on the stage, you really do choose how you act, what you wear, who you hang out with, how you talk. It's a script. But culture, what is culture? And how does that cause us to make all kinds of assumptions that may be right and good that we want to keep, but may also be incredibly damaging? And now, as adults, you are absolutely deciding how to reconstruct yourself the way you want. What is important? How do I want to think? How do I think? Obviously, you don't agree with everything your parents have told you, or else I think you should think about that, because that's not, parents imbue you with what they feel is best. And many of those things will be. No prof is here to say how you grew up, what your religion teaches you, what your school taught you. Nobody is here to say that's wrong. It's here for you to become aware of where that information came from. and how it shapes your actions, your decisions, so that you have agency, so that you are fully critically thinking and can engage in this world meaningfully, not just like an automaton. Because this is women's and gender studies, we really start with the question of biological essentialism. And this is a little task that I'd love to have you get your chat up ready, or just unmute and be bold and brave. Students come to know who Simone de Beauvoir is in my class. But I would like you to tell me what you think this phrase means that she's very famous for. And many of you already know where I'm at. I'm not suggesting that you just arrived here on the turnip cart. I think you probably know a whole lot of this. Not that there's anything wrong with turnips. Let me just be clear. Very nice mashed, a little butter, pepper, very nice. But she wrote in 1949, one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. And we could also say one is not born, but rather becomes a man. Do not think that women's and gender studies is just about women. It's about every gender, every sexual orientation. It is inclusive. But there's a reason we start with women, and that's history. It's called patriarchy. But I'd like to hear from you, whether by chat or just unmute and jump in. You can raise your hand as well. I'm trying to get a few more of you on here. But what do you think is meant when somebody says one is not born, but rather becomes a woman? And you can think back as a little clue to those words that I had up here: cultural scripts, social construction, even binaries, if you know that word. So I want to hear, or I do start calling on people, because you have to be engaged and you're shy. That's okay. But I'd love to have you type in, what does it mean? One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. We start to develop this whole answer. So if you have a partial answer, don't be afraid, write it in. Which Brooklyn wants to go first?
I see Delia says, I believe this may have much to do with the social construct of gender, seeing as gender and sex are in fact quite different.
Lovely. Yeah, there's a great place to start. Thank you so much, Maria and Delia. I love that name, by the way. That's a really lovely. So yeah, and then we have Ella joining in. Good. And keep on typing, folks. So yeah, social construction of gender, that identity that is placed upon us, imposed from the moment. Hey, what's the first question people ask about a baby? What is it? Unmute somebody. What is it?
Is it a boy or a girl?
Yeah. Is it a boy or is it a girl? Why is that so important? Because there's a cascading then definitional identity forming thing. We know what to expect from that child, what to teach them, how to think, how to act, whether to cry or not, what to wear, what toys we should purchase for them, and what their social conduct would be. That is a cultural script over which we have no power. And for those who do not identify with the genitalia that they have, or if the doctor has decided that they have a certain genitalia that makes them male or female, right? Then they have difficulty. And maybe we should think about biological essentialism. Does my vagina tell me how to act and think? Is somehow who I am connected to my genitalia? Does a man have to act this way because he has a penis? And So that's essentialism. So let's keep going. So that was an excellent differentiation right from the beginning. Ella, possibly that being a woman is an identity and is shaped through life experience, opposed to something that is simply assigned at birth. Be sure to take notes from other students, because clearly we have people knowing what they're talking about here. In those definitions, you need to write the word in, biological essentialism. You've learned that. We're challenging the notion that has been taught to us from science and from religion that somehow our body decides all of how we feel and think. So you are challenging that with critical thinking. Society teaches us from birth, Mallory says, or even before birth, how each gender is supposed to act. Media, we spend lots of time on media. How many and other mediums of what is socially accepted and what is not. Each of you, no matter what gender you identify with, has been shamed at some time in your life. And shame on society for thinking they have an opinion on your conduct, okay? So people feel that they have to conform. And otherwise, you know, we all know about bullying and worse. And yeah, the experience helps us know what our identity is. So those are exactly what this particular class is. And look at how much richer that was because you contributed instead of me just telling you, right? So those are really excellent beginnings, and it kind of shows you what the class would be going towards. So then, you know, there's going to be some of the information on PowerPoints that you can look at. And here, Chloe, I think that it means being a woman is so much more than the body you were born into. You become a woman, or who you are as a person, as you form your identity and grow up, not the body you were born into. Precisely. And it's pretty amazing that in 1949, this French philosopher in a field that for many, many centuries said, oh yes, human rights are good, but women are not human. So it doesn't matter. Black people are not human. White people are human, white men are humaner. Okay, so there was so much hierarchy. So if we can take apart some of this stuff, and I should say, so that nobody leaves this going, I heard a women's and gender studies prof say that men are bad. This is not about individuals. It is about systems. And that's a word that I have people write in their books. Systems. We're looking at systemic cultural scripts that, like you've indicated, right, force us into certain things. Men are feminists. Men are part of the solution if they choose to be. Yeah. They can also choose to be part of the problem, just as many women choose to be part of the problem. Okay. So this isn't about what you're born with. It's about the choices you make and how self-aware you are and how kind you are. Really, it's a class about kindness in many, many ways. And I'm just reading the chat here. Is it Nav? Exactly. Yes. Okay. Love your opinion, by the way. And this is where we begin. And our opinion is shaped by what we've observed, right? That's true that women are taught from the beginning that they are not as free as man. And that they are not allowed to do this and that. So if you have family members who believe that, or you have generations and whole social cultures that have been shaped by that assumption, how does one individual change that? And that's where I love my feminisms and activism class, because it's never one person. It's how we have seen the transformation around acceptance of sexual orientation and gender identity. I have a pride flag in my front yard because I'm so happy with our city council that has said we must ban conversion therapy because it is destructive. People have killed themselves because of that. And we have to be active citizens to that. So we talk so much more in my class about what it means to be an engaged citizen who takes knowledge. You all get vaccinated. It's science. It's fact. Do it. Be aware of what's informing you. It's not separated. What we learn in class is not separated. These are part of our culture. And we have to be active citizens to it. I'm going to ask you to now start thinking about yourself, and you do not need to show anybody this, but we're going to give you a little time to now apply what we've been talking about to your own situation. So hopefully, I'll just move this over here. This is a very easy diagram. Can you see the spider there? You can draw this out yourself. I should have said at the beginning, you need a paper and pen for this little exercise. So grab a paper and pen. And I fill this out myself every semester, to be honest, because we change. And that's the whole point of this. This is what I call the locating ourselves identity inventory exercise. Okay, so you're locating yourself. So we're only going to fill in this one and some of this, and then there wouldn't be any time. You'd have to come back to the next class. The rest of you will be wondering, what will they be doing? But in this circle, this is you. This diagram is you mapping yourself out. So put your name in here. If I had my board up, I would do it, but I don't. But put your name in the middle. This is you. So Brooklyn, Lisa, Maria, Delia, so on. Put your name in there and add the words narrator and the word agency. So a narrator is somebody who tells their story. You narrate your story. And I'm proposing with this mapping that we tell our story according to what we've learned and also to who we tell our story to. Our stories don't stay the same. You are not telling me the same story that you tell your grandma or your peers or your employers, right? We tell our stories in different ways. We have the agency to do that. And that's the third word that goes in the circle. So you've got your name, narrator, and agency. So agency is not referring to the perfect, thanks Maria. Agency is not referring to, you know, the social services agency. It's talking about you. So here's the definition of agency that you would add to your notes. Agency is the ability to tell your own story the way you want to. The definition of agency is that you are able to tell your own story the way you want to. So usually a professor slows down and gets very serious and repeats themselves. And then, you know, this is very important. I will have to learn this word. So there's your cues. Agency is the ability to tell your own story the way you want to. And this is the purpose of a university education. Surprisingly, not just about jobs. So on the left-hand side, you're going to have to do a little imagination quiz here for me in very little time. Imagine with me for a moment that an alien comes down from outer space and has never seen anything like you before. The likes of you is not on their planet. But your task is to tell that alien what and who you are. So we'll assume that they have a language transmitter decoder like Star Trek, and they will understand you. And I'd like you to answer and put a different answer in each of these bubbles on just the left-hand side. So in your mind, you would say to the alien, I am a blank. And that's what you would fill in one of the bubbles. Do it quickly. Don't think about it. We're thinking about, why do I think the way I think? What comes first to your mind? What have you been conditioned to identify yourself as? What are the most important signifiers or identities that you've been given? And there's many of them. So I'll give you a few minutes. So again, you think about, I am a this, I am a that. And maybe you get one or two and then you're stumped, but taking time to think about it is really important. And then we'll see what people come up with. We'll get a few. I'm going to ask Maria first. She's on top of this. I can see her. Y'all are too, but I can't see you. So think back to all of the things that you've identified. And we're not just going to stop at the questions. We're going to then look at those bubbles. And silence isn't a bad thing either in a class. So let's start hearing Some of the automatic things that came out, you can type them in, or you can just open up your mic and blurt them out. I am a Maria.
I am a student.
I am a student. It's important to you, right? That was the first thing. What are some of the other things? Thank you. I am human is a good place to start. Hard worker, excellent. Empathetic, lovely. Keep on. I'm a human. I'm all over the place. Gender-esque. Gender-esque. What else? Perfect. Keep going. Obviously, many of you, yes, thank you. Perfect. A son. We're going to come back to that. Keep thinking of the different categories. I am kind.
I am opinionated.
And opinionated. And those two can go together. I am an introvert. Excellent. Okay, all of you, other than Delia, have kind of not done the gender. So we started with human. I am a boy. I'm a girl. I'm a man. I'm a woman. Right? So you know where we're going with that. I am trans, I am intersex, I am gay, I am cis, I am whatever. And then we have, I'd like you to look at some of these words. I'm just gonna, okay. Hard worker, empathetic, kind, and you said opinionated, introvert, strong, perfectionist. Okay. If I were to look at all of those, you have given a value. Somebody somewhere along the way taught you it's good to be kind. Maybe you finally observed that you're very opinionated, or maybe somebody told you that and you went, yeah, I'm kind of like that. Okay. And I would suggest that that is a bubble. All of those things is one bubble. These are values. So when we go back to that question of why do I think the way I think, those are very important to you, and they describe the kind of person you are. Let's take a look at Lisa, who says, I am a child of God. I would suggest that in one of those next bubbles, we would say that many people identify with a spiritual or religious kind of existence, that there is something beyond the material. And in this sense, I get a sense of being cared for by that God. I'm a child of God. I trust in God. I have a relationship, right? So that's something that Lisa was probably taught, or maybe came to on her own. I think Lisa's gender as a female name. That would inform you of the way the world operates. And it could be very different from somebody else who identifies in a different way, right? Many of you have another bubble here, which is relational. It is very important to Brooklyn that she is a daughter, that Paige is a sister, that Zach is a friend, that, who is it, Parker said he's a son, and so on, right? That these family relationships are another way we identify. So these different things are what we call cultural scripts that have been taught to us from birth and onward. And my experience has also taught me that. It has taught me that there is value to seeing myself as a child of God, for instance. And that informs me, but I identify where that came from. And it's remarkable how many people don't take the time to think about why they think the way they think. Why is that important to me? And oftentimes, and this is nothing to do with other people, anything that anybody has said, but many times what we have been taught is either just wrong, factually or scientifically, or it's very damaging. Lots of biases, assumptions, prejudices, hatred. And when we're able to identify, why do I think the way I think? Then we jump from blaming individuals, say my father is a hater, okay? And going further back and finding, why does he feel that way? Who taught him? What are his experiences? And are they something that I want to carry with me, right? So that's what we call agency, that you're able to tell your story in those ways. There's ever so many other things that I would add to this if we had time. And I'm just coming down to see, okay, that's as many as we're given. Thank you so much, everybody. You see how it changes, right, every semester. Our cultural scripts, we also have to think about the education system. That would be another bubble. We would think about our nationality. It's really funny that when we say I am Canadian, we also often say I am not American. And many times that is because we look at America as doing a lot of damage. And we're proud to be Canadian and not American. It's only recently that I think we finally maybe are dealing with some of our own garbage, because no country is without some difficulties, right? Some very troubling things. But often it's over and against something. There's another phrase I teach students: I know who I am by who I am not. I know who I am by who I am not. And this is that kind of binary thinking, right or wrong, good or bad, male, female. That's a whole lecture in itself. But our nationality influences our cultural scripts. Religion was one of them, a student, and then you might put in that same bubble, it would also be that I'm employed. It's what you do. It's what you do now, right? It's how do I make a living, or what is my task right now before me? So that's a bubble. That informs how you act, what you decide to put on today. If you're a trucker, you may decide not to wear high heels getting down from that big truck, right? So there's all those things that give us significations. Somebody mentioned media, and you're all very media savvy, I'm sure. So we get to know, hi, Carla, getting on here. We get to know what is of value and what is not. So we're almost at the end. And I wanted to show you, lastly, a filled in identity chart, just because we don't have time to actually do that ourselves. I wanted to show you the reason behind what we're doing. And so as a first year class, okay, there we go. You would be engaged in a real self-analysis. Some people might say it's even a diagnostic, right? So this I wrote out last year. This isn't what I would be doing this again with my class, but there's your name, the word narrator, and agency. What we were talking about today was the construction of our multiple identities, and you'll see, right? So here, maybe you might see some of the things we talked about. Here you are with the ability to deconstruct and then to reconstruct. And that right-hand side was going to be the groups we tell our stories to, okay? Over here were the experiences. Like I have an experience as a daughter, as a young girl growing up on a farm. Those are real experiences, right? Nobody told me what those experiences are. I had them and they are valid. But what people did do, what cultural scripts do, is that they categorize and place values on them. So they'll say, oh yeah, you had that experience just because you're a girl and you're not a boy. So then you start to have this like little story being shaped for you. And unless you have that agency and you take that time to think about, is that what really happened? Am I okay with that script? You're still then being shaped by external forces. And I don't think any one of us working at university wants people to come out as automatons and robots and everybody thinking alike. We need your diverse strengths. Okay. So I would stop there and just to say that that gives you a sample. And then, you know, if a prof is giving you lots of time, and I thank you so much for being so sharing of your thoughts here, and they were really, really useful. If professors give you that time, if you can learn to take them up on that. I did not talk in classes for a very, very long time. I told you I'm an introvert, and it took a lot of guts. And so I think, as I said, most profs are introverts and they get it. So we try to find different ways for you to engage. For me, engaging means shooting me an email and asking me the question if you don't feel comfortable in this forum. And it used to mean stopping in the hallway. We will do that again, inshallah. So that will come about. But emails and Zoom meetings and things like that, that is precisely what we are here to do. So if you had had an English prof, the chances are they might have talked about some similar things. What you'll find in your classes are great similarities, and you will start weaving together your own story based on that. And you'll be surprised at, I hope you're surprised at just how enriching it is. Some of you may have, I don't know, family members who are professors. Maybe you're really familiar with university. And for others of you, it's just like, what's going to happen? So it's okay. It's okay to feel that. You do get through that. So I will be quiet and thank you for participating, and turn it over to Maria. I think you go ahead, Maria. I will mute, and then I will leave.
No, thank you so much for your time today. Your sample lecture was awesome, and honestly, it makes me want to go back and take courses from you because that was so fun.